This episode of Profiles in Risk is sponsored by Zywave. Insurers, brokers, and agencies are facing escalating risk and rising complexity. Only Zywave delivers a performance multiplier, equipping you with the tools to get risk right, unlock efficiency, and scale at new speeds. Find out more at 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝘀.com.
Hello and welcome to a special episode of Profiles in Risk. This is your host, 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝘀𝗀, and today I have with me Rose Hancock, VP of Product Management at Zywave. Rose, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. Nice and sunny out here in Charleston, South Carolina today. So we're super excited to be here for you to join.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And so it looks like you are in South California, it's South Carolina.
That's
so
right.
Not far from me in Atlanta. So for us, it was a cold weekend, and now it's looking like it's getting really nice. How's South Carolina looking?
Yes, it was very cold. I actually joked I live here, on the beach, and we were out on the boat enjoying the weekend, and then all of a sudden it was bring out your jackets, within 24, 40, 36 hours, 48 hours, something like that. And I'm pretty sure it'll be back on the boat this weekend. So
fantastic.
Very nice.
Fantastic. So
our poor friends, coworkers across the country, they were not as fortunate. They got some snow.
Yeah, exactly. My family in Ohio and friends in Chicago, a couple of guests that we recorded with last week had the first snow of the year. This is why I live in Atlanta.
I heard you got some snowflakes in Atlanta, though, potentially.
We saw it happen, yes, and they did not stick, so the city did not shut down as it normally would when it snows, which is very, very rare to begin with.
That's really great.
Yeah. So we always give the guests a chance to give the elevator pitch. What is Zywave?
Sure. So Zywave is a leading software provider helping insurance agencies, brokers, carriers, and service providers really provide that service performance multiplier, whether it is helping them anywhere throughout that customer journey, helping from product creation to distribution to client services, really thinking about your quoting, your client retention, your growth, your front office needs, and then we have the back office ones to there. So really, we are trying to make sure that our customers are driving that profitable growth.
All right. So if I'm understanding correctly, okay, so software provider with at least some strong focus in the insurance vertical. And it looks like all sides of the insurance vertical, agencies, brokerages, carriers.
Correct. Like if you think about that, infinity sign, we are constantly helping connect both sides of that ecosystem, really when it comes from the carrier side to the brokers and kind of fulfilling those needs and getting those two entities to be able to communicate and work through their digital distribution.
Okay. And pretty distribution focused.
Yes. So connecting to be able to do across all personal lines, commercial lines, and benefits, helping getting out the quotes and coverages out the door.
All right. So for the last, 18 months, every interview I've done, well, not every interview because I do some career interviews and some author interviews, but every interview with an insurtech, all anybody can talk about is AI.
Yep.
So how is Zywave approaching AI?
Right. So, what's rooted in AI is your data story, right? So the big thing that's around Zywave and what we are fortunate and what's going to make it is the power that we have, right? Customers love us because of the data and the content that we provide out to the industry. So what we have done is we started dabbling in about 2023, like everybody else, really bringing in simple AI use cases. Let me help you write your emails, right? So Zywave has a vast amount, over 8,000 pieces of content, right, that help the broker and the carriers. Well, sometimes you get a little bit of writer's block, right? Like you don't know, you've got this great piece of content that's going to go out to a prospect or a customer, but you really don't know how to say, hey, I think this really fits you. So we have AI built in that will write that email for you. So we launched that way back in 2023. Also, we have an HR hotline. So inside of our client portals, right, somebody can go and ask an HR question. Well, because we have all this content, before it gets to a human, because you take naturally, 24 hours at least are at the maximum to get a response back. Well, first we used AI to help search for content using our content libraries to then give an answer to them and to answer their HR questions. So now somebody can get an instant answer within the client portals, or they can go to the human, to our HR hotline if they need more help. So those were launched, like I said, years ago on that. In 2024 into 2025, we added that conversational chat into searching for content. And so this allows you to easily go into our content area and really prep for meetings, find the content you need to drive campaigns, learn about a piece of a regulation, right? Anything from risk management to compliance, HR services. You could go send out content about being a safe driver, all of that. And now you have that search. But those were just points, right? Point things that help you get better. So what we're doing now, which I talked about a month ago, and you're going to hear much more about it from us in December and going forward, is we're connecting that marketing and lead gen. So we're producing agentic workflows that really stitch all of the different components that you need to be able to drive your initial conversations, to be able to build your book of business and cross-sell your current book.
Okay.
So that's taking some of our leading, so a little bit more about that. That's taking our leading prospect data that we have within MyEdge, that's around commercial lines, personal lines, and benefits, connecting that to premium contacts, going out and having a research brief that's going out there and checking out the web for anything to know about that customer, and built custom campaigns and sequences per that contact. So if I wanted to go and sell insurance to Tony, I want to know exactly what Tony needs. So I'm able to do that with this research agent and everything that I need to do in that one single workflow. So we're super excited about launching that here very soon.
That would be very, very helpful. Yes. I absolutely. If you're trying to get me to move my insurance, I've been with Liberty Mutual for a long time. I think I still have an employee discount. I haven't been there for a long time. When you give me a call, if you know that my girlfriend and I travel a lot, and you can talk about why moving my coverage would help, or if you know that I have a small magician business on the side. Yeah. Right. And if you can, right. If you have those, and those are very silly data points in my case, because I live a weird life. But if you know those things, you can customize the conversation to how the products that you have access to might actually work for me. So yeah, that would be super, super, super helpful.
We're here to connect you to what matters most to you. So it's there connecting and making sure that you have that, right? It's a personalized note to Tony or to that business that you're looking for to be able to sell the insurance, and not just like a broad, hey, Tony, let me get your, homeowners or your auto or your business quote. It really drives that with real data that can back it up. So we're super excited about that. And then we won't stop there, right? Advisors, Zywave is a leading quoting solution out there with our rating, quoting, and connectivity. So you can absolutely bet that will be our next agent that we built out there with Agentic Workflow, is pulling in that ability to really look at your quotes, compare policies, benchmark them, all into a single workflow that really helps out.
Okay, let's back out a little. I'm super curious on the origin story. How did Zywave come to be?
Yeah, so Zywave is 30 years old. We just celebrated our 30 years this summer, so super excited. We were born out of an agency, right? So
Oh,
we
fantastic.
started
Okay.
from
Mhm.
a benefits agency way back in the 90s that they really wanted someone to help and take the analytics that we were doing at that industry or at our particular agent and broaden that out and sell it. So we were able to take our knowledge and expand that. To fast forward 30 years later, we are a large insurtech, not just small anymore, that services the benefits, property and casualty, that entire ecosystem there.
Okay, fantastic. So tech company completely focused on the distribution side of insurance and helping enable pretty much every aspect of the distribution side of insurance.
Yeah. And, not just the distribution side, but so that's helping you with your front needs, right? That's helping you market and acquire your companies. But what happens once you do that, right? We all know, right, that clients say this, right? We have our own broker studies and studies that are out there that say customers are 60% satisfied with their brokers. And what about that other 40%? Like, how are you going to service them, right? So Zywave has tools that help you with not just finding the business, but retaining that business. So whether it's your agency management systems or maybe it's your client portals, we have all of that to help. And we're super excited about kind of connecting that entire journey that the policyholder needs. And, same thing with the carriers and the brokers on that.
All right. So you lead product for company.
Correct. Yep. I have about half of the product portfolio. I have a peer that has the other half, but yep.
Perfect. So I don't often have a product person. Often I have either a founder or, for a more mature company, a head of sales. So I'm very curious on what is how do you guys handle the product side, and what is your approach to product strategy?
Sure. Really, it's, insurance is all about relationships driven, right? The relationships that you have, you need your insurance broker to be there at your moment of need, right? Like that is what your broker and your carrier is there for, that person or their business at their moment of need. So it's relationship, or it's compliance driven. What do I need for those? And so what we're trying to do is to change that, to say, okay, not change that, right? We want that to highlight that. We want to make sure that we deeply understand the workflow of what the policyholder, the insured, has to go through to gain insurance and to maintain it, and everything that they need to go from start to finish. The carriers and the agencies, and fill in where we can help make that more efficient so that the relationships can really is what matters. So we really try to understand the user problems from the broker side or from the carrier side, and then ultimately how that impacts that insured, to then build technology that helps make that better.
Okay, so lots of focus on the customer feedback.
On the customer feedback, that's right. Right, we spend a lot of time talking to customers, talking to our teams that talk to customers. Right, like it's may not realize every time you hear that little, this may be recording for purposes, we are also listening those to understand the pain points that customers are having, so we can help build solutions to help them. Or what's going really well, right? It's not always about pain. Sometimes it's about what's going well.
Okay, so our industry is relationship driven, and that's a mild way to put it. It's all about the relationships. Otherwise, everybody would just buy their insurance direct. And heavily regulated. Compliance is non-negotiable, right? So how do you bring a product mindset into that kind of world?
Yeah, so we know, right, those aren't optionals, right? The regulations, the compliance, those aren't optional. You have to build those. So we need to build that into what the agencies do, making sure at their fingertips that they have the ability to handle the documents, handle the renewals, freeing up the producers to really handle the relationship, that they need, right? How do you do that, right? Sometimes we don't always get it right. Sometimes it's slower than they need, but how do you automate that? How do you make sure that someone is not typing in that data in multiple sources, right? How to make sure the data is flowing?
Endemic in our world.
100%, right? And so making sure that we get that part, right? And so then taking that deeply, to understand, again, back to that user's journey to really get there, and just bringing it back to that listening, coming with that bigger picture is, it's not necessarily about changing the way that they want to do something. It's about helping them do what they need to be doing better and more efficient.
Okay. Perfect. So we going back to listening to the customer. Henry Ford says if I had asked the customer what they want, they would have said a faster horse, right? Mm-hmm. I never forget that line. The customer doesn't, right? Steve Jobs same thing. Like we wouldn't have
BlackBerry.
thought of an iPod, right? Or we wouldn't have thought we would have asked for a better BlackBerry. We would have asked for a better what's it called? A better an MP3 player with more storage space,
sure.
Not the iPod. How do you go from what your customers who are insurance professionals say they want and what will actually be useful?
It all comes down to understanding their problems, right? Like understanding what they're actually trying to get at. Someone told me the other day, they're like, Rose, you're really good at asking why. Because someone will say, I need this. Why? Right? Like, and I don't always ask why, like that way. You don't directly say why, because they'll come up with, because I said so, just like your mother, right? But it's understanding, it's building that. It's trying to understand what they're trying to solve. And that is what happened with all of those, right? The horse, the car, the BlackBerry, is what are we trying to actually solve? One of my favorite analogies is someone going, why do you work out? Because you say, I want to be healthy. Well, why do you want to be healthy? Because I want to live longer. Well, why do you want to live longer? I want to play with my grandkids one day, right? Like that's ultimately what you're trying to do, is I want to be able to have grandkids and enjoy life, in your case, travel, right? Like do all those things. And so how do you get to that point? And so that's where you really need to understand that why and what they're trying to solve. And then you're able to really develop a solution that can help, instead of just saying, I need a faster horse.
Right. Okay, so Zywave has engaged in some acquisitions over the years. How do you approach unifying those into the fold and making those experiences coherent?
Sure.
What is the right word? Properly unified for the users.
So, Tony, we're going to be honest here. If I was to ask every single one of our listeners today what they think of Zywave, who do they think Zywave is? You are going to get probably a different answer from everybody. When you purchase the amount of companies that we did in that short amount of time, 10 companies in 5 years, maybe it's 11 or 12 in 6 years, whatever the ratio is, you're going to get whatever tool they have. You guys are the broker briefcase company because that's where we originated. Oh, you're the ICC, the TurboRater company. Oh, you're the Advise and Loss Data. You're the MyEdge company. You're the Mod Master company, right? You're going to hear all that. Your client portals. All of those different solutions are all things that we purchased that helped build that story that I talked about at the first, that performance multiplier to help go from A to B. How do I make that company perform better? How do I help an agency perform better, right? And grow? Well, through these acquisitions, it's taken us time. So we are stitching them together, and we are doing that by a couple different ways. How do we give them a single username and password? It's simple. Every company that goes through acquisitions does this. How many passwords do you log into a day to get to like some technology? A gazillion, right? How can we make that easier? So we have products currently right now, partner platform, 𝗏𝗏𝗃 that are starting in that journey of one username and password, one Zywave to get to that. They'll also know a lot of these products are going what we call a ZUI shell, Zywave user interface. I know, kind of cheesy there, but like we're trying to make them all look the same. So as we go through these products, we're making them look the same. We're connecting the data together. And AI is really going to accelerate that. So our first agentic workflow that we're putting out in Q1 that we talked about at the top of the conversation, that's actually stitching these products together to a single uniformed thing without the user having to feel like they're going into different products. We've stitched these together to get that same work, the same outcome, the outcome that they needed before, and they went to 15 different places. They can now go to a single place to get that outcome that they needed. So that's what we're doing. We're taking those, blending them together, and having that unifying experience for all of that.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, 10, 11 acquisitions, that's crazy. You've been busy. And by that, I mean, literally your team has been busy.
Across, right? And taking not just the products, the people, the customers, right? How do you blend that together? We added in carriers, we added in brokers, we added the smalls, we added some bigs, right? And kind of getting that into a company culture and a customer culture that we are trying to form.
Perfect. What do you see the next big leap for insurance? Is it going to be more automation, AI driven?
It's going to be AI, right? Like we all know that, right? It's going to be AI that's there. Before that, it's got to get this data. We've got to get our data under control across the companies. We've got to figure out how to cleanse the data. I think you hear that all the time, garbage in, garbage out, right? Like, how do we clean the data and make sure that it's ready? Where do we make sure that it's secure and safe, right? Like, I talked at a conference about AI. Are we reading the T's and C's about how we're doing? Are you asking your technology companies what they're doing with the data? How is it blended in with the others' data, right? Those types of questions. So understanding it are all important pieces that we need to do. But yeah, data and AI on that is a big leap that will get to automation.
Perfect. What are you most excited about when it comes to insurance technology next 3 to 5 years?
AI, right? I already know how it's changing my life. Right? How to write an email, how to write product requirement documents, how to write user stories, how to listen to 100 calls, right? But how do we get to that next lead? How do we save the time? We've got customers that say, Rose, we spend 12 hours for every policy comparing the documents and putting that into an Excel doc. What would you do with, okay, so it's not going to completely take the 12 hours away. Let's say if we can reduce that to an hour or two. What would you do with the other 10 hours of your time? Go more travel? No, you would spend it with your clients, right? You would be able to have more client relationships. You would be able to do that. So I'm really excited about building that empathy, coming back to those client relationships by getting rid of some of the manual tasks that people have been spending doing work 12 hours a day comparing things, or a week, month, whatever it is. You can't do 12 hours a day to compare. You go crazy.
Yeah. The way that the industry brings in technology is painful. It's gotten better. It looks to me like it's gotten better.
I've been in InsurTech for 19 years. So yes, I very much appreciate the change of how some of that has happened. In my first days, it was very much like, what? How, you still that? And there are still, like, I talk to agencies all the time where they're like, yeah, we do it in Excel doc or we do it on sticky notes.
So if you could change one thing about how, as an industry, we adopt technology, what would you change?
The accessibility to the data. If we could, wave a magic wand, make that easier, really we all want open and connected. We all know that we need to work together across the industry to make it better for the customer, right? For that client, not just the broker or the carrier, but for that policyholder. And I really just wish it would be easier. So everything that we can do together as partners, to make that easier is super important. And look, I feel guilty every time somebody calls me and they're like, Rose, we want this. We want to get an API to get to the data to push it here. And I'm like, I know, I want that too, right? And I'm doing the best. We do the best we can in the products to make sure that it's there to get it done. I just wish it was easier, right? Like that would be the magic wand across, right? Carriers think the same way. When you talk to them, they want to be able to get the data somewhere. Brokers want to get the data somewhere. I think that would be the piece that people would be the most excited about.
Yeah. How do you make sure that Zywave products remain intuitive for insurance professionals so we don't have to be tech experts?
Yeah. User feedback. So we spend time talking to customers about what do they want to look for, right? Like we like to test customers. We'll put a new interface in front of them, right? Like, so I would log into a screen and say, all right, Tony, here, I'm giving you a screen. Go execute something for me. Go quote this policy. And I want to watch you do it with no instructions. That's how I make sure that it's intuitive. There are technologies out there that allow you to click on things, and they're like heat maps where you can see Tony clicked on that area 5 times, but it didn't do anything. Just like anytime, anywhere, you're going to any website and you're clicking on something and you're like, nothing is happening. Those types of things. Also paying attention to the industry, right? Not just insurance, but outside of insurance. Where are Amazons? Where are Home Depot, right? Where are those different things changing the user interface and how we connect and do things? Because that's what's influencing us. Like that's the rate of change. As we get on the different websites and we do those, and there's change. So we're expecting that same type of change, right? Outlook, Teams, all of those different tools, they change. So being aware, we've got a set of user experience teams, designers that are constantly looking at those types of things so that influence our Zywave user interface.
How do you measure success? How do you know if a product is truly making a difference?
A lot of people, right? We spend a lot of time talking about how are the users using it? Are they adopting it? But it's not so much about just the adoption of like, how many times did someone click on this? Oh, yay, they're using this. But how are we saving our customers time, right? How are they growing? If we see a customer grow by X%, we ask them, how are our tools helping, right? We're trying to constantly do case studies and do those. And we have metrics that say, hey, we were able to save this much time by using our technologies and trying to prove that out to the market. And that's how true success is measured, is understanding the time savings or the growth, right? How did you help your customer grow? So how did agencies grow using this technology or this data? That's the ultimate measure of success.
Perfect. You guys integrate with a lot of third-party systems. How important is open connectivity and integration?
100%. That is the number one key to success, right? Is like open integrations, as I mentioned before, right? I do hate when you say, nope, we don't have that data pulled out in an open API, but we do. We have a whole, Zywave, api.zywave.com has the APIs that we have that really connect that data out. And that's something that we're always looking for, is to have those APIs. We build things all the time. API first is our philosophy. A lot of the time it's internal and then we turn on external, but that is definitely a huge piece of who we are and where we want to go. To give that choice and flexibility, to have that.
You're right. Kind of a last question. If we fast forward 2 years, what do you hope your customers are saying about your products?
So we helped them grow, right? We helped them grow on their business, right? We helped them be successful at their business. We helped them grow their business. Now, I'm not just saying grow from a new sales, but we helped them retain, right? I did a webinar recently about your sales efficiency. And it wasn't just, what is your new business you're bringing in, what's your sales velocity, and what is your retention. Those are all three things that you should be measuring to have a successful business. And so I'm hoping that we can, tie those back into in the next years.
All right. All right.
I think, and I think back, if there's any questions about the products themselves, right? Like we didn't, if there's things that are all in tech, right? When we talked a little bit about Zywave at the beginning, we talked about 30 years, but we have all of the top 100 use one of our products, 15,000 different customers, thinking about anything from prospecting and lead generation to your websites, to your marketing automation, your content, your quoting, your AMSs, your client portals, your content, right? All of those are all places that we can really help agencies with. And, we're excited to be there to help with that.
All right. So given that since you mentioned how all top 100 use something, if I'm an agency or a brokerage, and I don't currently use any Zywave products, how do I get started at getting an idea of how you might be able to help me?
Sure. So our sales team would love to do consulting with you, right? And talk to you about what your needs are, right? So if you are a net new agency, what are those tools that you need? If you are in mid-market, kind of you're moving around, do you have your AMS, right, already established? That's okay. We've got connections, right? I talked about the open connectivity. We've got the connections into our competitor AMSs, right, that pull your data, connections that pull your data, right, accounts and contacts or policy header information into core Zywave to then power those additional workflows. So if you want to be able to send out a request to get a deck page, we can do that even if you're not using our systems, right? Like we can pull that data in. You want to send a client content information, we can do that because we can allow marketing automation because we're pulling your customers in. We can help you with benchmarking, right? We understand where the losses are happening, benchmarking your customer that you're trying to do, with others in the system, whether it's benefits or commercial lines, right? We've got all that data. And so pulling all that in is really helpful that we can have. And so it's really, where does that agency need help? And so our sellers will talk to the teams and do some consulting with our solutions consultant and figure out the pain that you need to solve first.
Perfect. So basically schedule some time with our people and tell us what's hurting.
Yeah. Tell us where you need. Do you need help on retention because you're a leaky bucket, right? You got your holes at your bucket, or do you need to help drive more sales? You just, maybe you're hiring a bunch of new sellers. Like maybe you're young. What do they say? The stat, 1 out of every 2, it's a 50% validation rate.
Oh, in our industry, yeah, we're awful at hiring and training new producers. Absolutely awful.
So we've got tools that help that, right? We have a whole producer validation training that we just refreshed this year that helps them. How do you cold call? How do you set meetings? How do you talk to people? Not necessarily just insurance related, it is, but it's just in general, like how to articulate, how do you smile and dial on product? How do you write emails? Those types of things. To then our content allows you to educate. If somebody asks you about alligator farming, and you're like, Rose, I don't know anything about alligator. Guess what? You can search that on content and find all kinds of things about alligator farming. I say that as there's an alligator probably out my window, but yes, you can do all of that.
Perfect. That's a great place to finish up at today. From the history of the company to how to insure alligator farming, you heard it all here. Rose, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.